Well, I'm back. Last time, we're talking about nomophobia. I don't know if you had time to fill out the NMPQ and find out your nomophobia score. Hopefully, it wasn't too bad. I doubt that it was. Um, but I'm going to talk a bit more about this and some of the research that I've been doing regarding cell phones in the classroom. So one thing with nomophobia and anxiety regarding phones is that it doesn't just, it's not universal. It doesn't impact everyone in the same way. There's some interesting research, for example, about gender and about girls, mostly teen girls. This study um, are more prone to being anxious when they don't have access to their phones. And why is this? We're going to be reading about this in Jean Twenge, and there are other people who've written about this. You can read Dana Boyd, who has kind of some counter examples about this. But why are girls more interested and attracted to their phones than boys are? Theories, most of the theories have to do with the phone as a social tool and how important that is for girls, for example. Kind of tricky research regarding gender. So what we do know is that phones in the classroom are a problem, but do we know this? I've been told this by many teachers, interviewed lots of teachers. I've heard it anecdotally from teachers. I've seen it in classrooms. And, Rob Ford thinks it's a problem because he promised he was going to ban cell phones when he took office. Hugely problematic for me because before he did that, I'd submitted a proposal to do research on cell phones in classrooms. And I wanted to have the students experience digital abstinence. So one class, students have no phones, another class, they have phones, exact same class, different sections, so grade 9 geography, and study the results. And I was told that my strategy seemed like it was basically running on arm in arm with Ford's politics, which is not at all the case, but it made it very difficult to get this study done. So there's a lot of research around this. There are famous schools in Silicon Valley that people are clamoring to get their kids into that don't allow any computers. So it's like, I work for Apple, I make iPhones, I design iPhones all day long, but I'm not going to let my kid go to a school where they can have an iPhone. France banned phones quite famously a couple years ago, and it was only in grade schools and middle schools. I didn't understand why, but they banned them in grade schools and middle schools. I actually went to France. I teach in Paris fairly regularly. Usually once a year I'll go there for a University of Paris 8 for a symposium and to teach. And I went to talk to some school administrators, and I was like, in a high school, a lycée, why don't you ban phones in high school? I asked. And this guy at a lycée in Montmartre told me a cell phone is not a learning tool, it's a personal object. What he said was, there's no reason to ban phones in high schools. No one would be dumb enough to bring a phone to school. Students know that it's not a learning tool. Teachers would never put up with a phone being in a classroom. It's part of their culture. I thought that was super interesting because here, phones in the classroom are a sign that we're cutting edge and we're innovating, whereas there it's a sign it's just not even considered. So there've been some interesting research on digital abstinence on cell phones in the classrooms. What happens when you implement a phone ban? This huge study by the London School of Economics called Ill Communication. If you're a Beastie Boys fan, that might be funny. But basically, it showed that after these are years of exposure to the cell phone ban, it showed that a 6.41% improvement happened after cell phones were banned for a few years at these schools. What's interesting about this 6.41% improvement on standardized test scores? Is that a big deal? Maybe not. What's really interesting to me is this. Low achieving students benefited most from the ban, with test scores increasing by 14.23% points. That's huge. A gain that was double compared with that of average students. Then the ban greatly benefited special education needs students and those eligible for free school meals, improving exam scores 10 and 12% points of a standard deviation respectively. So there you go. Who's benefiting the most from school bans? The kids who are already at risk in school. So that tells you something. I'm going to skip that. There's been a lot of research on this. A really good study you might want to look at is called Growing Up Digital by Rich and Verhagen, Daniels, Bickham, and McRae. And it just shows the kinds of emotional, social challenges that school students are facing today, and issues of anxiety and depression. And a lot of this, they say, is related to different types of digital media use. And you've heard about, the whole cyberbullying thing and all of that. So you can check out this study if you'd like, Growing Up Digital, if you're interested in this topic. So I've been doing research on this, and I was banned from the school board. My research was banned from the school board because they thought that taking away students' phones for a study, having them engage in digital abstinence for a study, would be counter to the school board's policy of leveraging digital at all costs. So I got a little bit of media attention for this. I resubmitted my proposal, and actually it got accepted. But as soon as my proposal got accepted, teachers went on strike, or they basically started a work to rule action. And in work to rule, you can't do research. So that research is still hanging. And now with the COVID-19 situation, still can't do the research. So we'll see what happens. Possibly this fall, I'll be able to start that research. But the research can involve taking phones away. The board still says you can't submit students to a state of digital abstinence because you'll be putting them at a disadvantage to other students. This assumes that giving students a phone in class puts them at an advantage, and there is no research to show that this is actually the case. So what I'm going to end up doing in the fall is basically having teachers fill out surveys about their attitudes toward phone use. So you're going to fill out this survey, and then we're going to hopefully use that data to provide some evidence that we need to study this more closely. And I know from anecdotal evidence that teachers are not happy with the state of phones in the classroom. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. We'll find out. So I'm doing this study, by the way, with the Vision and Attention Lab at the University of Waterloo, Professor Dan Smilek and group. And you can check out the work of the Vision and Attention Lab. It's pretty interesting too. And yeah. So we've actually done a little bit of study, gathered some data on this already from the Catholic School Board. And I could share this data. I could talk about it in class if you want. This graph doesn't necessarily show you too much in a video like this, but what it does show is that students are using their phones a lot in the class, that they're being distracted by it, that they're distracting others multiple times a day. And this is only 30 teachers. We're hoping to get a few hundred teachers in the next study. But I think this shows kind of the gist of the questions we'll be asking. So you have one principle. I'll just wrap up here. Say, anecdotally speaking, cell phones are having an impact on student success. They're a major distractor in class. Teachers are really struggling with keeping students on task and not using their phones for non-educational purposes. I feel this is a societal issue that is spilling into the classroom. Short of a cell phone ban in schools, I am not sure how we solve this problem. So that's a teacher. This video has been a bit longer than it should have been. Next time I'm going to talk about this, Yonder, which is you could think of it as an object to think with. It's a cell phone case to lock away your devices. I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about why I developed a resistor case in the next video. Okay, this video is a bit longer. Sorry about that, but I hope it was worthwhile.